Hi, this is Joe Chambers. Welcome to Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage the Vault Series. Today's clip comes from a 2005 interview I did with record producer and songwriter Alan Reynolds. In this clip, Alan talks about his time in Memphis, being a songwriter and moving to Nashville eventually. Hope you enjoy it. If you do, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. Once again, record producer Alan Reynolds.
I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and moved here in 1970. Been a member of Local 257 since, I guess, 1970 when I transferred my membership up here. I can't claim to be much of a musician. I came here as a songwriter who hacks around on a guitar a little bit, and I did play on 1 Million Seller. I talked myself onto a Charlie Pride session and played acoustic gut string guitar on Kiss an Angel Good Morning, which I think is Charlie's only million-selling single. I joked with him later and told him he should have hired me again. It might have helped him. But anyway, I moved here as a songwriter, working for Jack Clement, who is one of my heroes as a songwriter, my dear friend, and also one of my heroes as a record producer. And moved to this town where other heroes of mine lived, those being Chet Atkins and Owen Bradley, Jerry Kennedy, Billy Sherrill, some, in my opinion, some of the best producers ever to work in the music industry. I've pursued songwriting for pretty much exclusively for a few years, but had done some producing in Memphis and liked it. It was always my favorite puzzle. One footnote to my Charlie Pride session, that very same session clued me in strongly to the fact that I was not in the same league with these people, and I stopped trying to get myself on recording sessions after that.
What's your earliest memory of knowing that you were going to be involved in music maybe forever?
I grew up in a family that sang a lot. I studied piano a little bit. I always loved music, and I always was attracted to the human voice and to harmonies and that sort of thing. And I would have melodies running around in my head and think about writing, but I didn't think ordinary people who weren't deeply schooled could do that. And then one day I met Dickie Lee, and Dickie was one of these ordinary lightly schooled people who was writing songs, and I thought, wow, that's cool. And I started writing songs, and then through Dickie, a while later, I met Jack Clement, who was then the recording engineer producer at Sun Records, and got a look at Dickie got signed to Sun Records, and we were down there working with Cowboy, Jack Clement, and making records. And I got to know Sam Phillips, who's another one of my idols, and I just got the bug. It was the most exciting thing in the world to make pieces of music that could be put on vinyl and go out and entertain people. And as much fun as it is to get on a stage and entertain, for me, I got bitten by the recording part of it, because that's the place where you're trying to create a performance that stands the test of time and is so pleasing that it makes people want to go out and see the artist when the artist comes to town. And that's the part of the process that always fascinated me, was fishing for that performance that stood the test of time.
Well, what was your first song that you wrote that you heard recorded?
I guess it was a song called Hey Heart, and it wasn't that much of a song, but it was a sweet little love song for any female that might have been attracted to it at the time.
Who was the artist?
The artist was Dickie Lee. And funny thing about it, Dickie and I both were writing songs to impress the girls back then, and we had gone down to do some recording with Jack Clement, and during that time Dickie recorded a song called Patches that later became a big hit for him. He also recorded my song Hey Heart, which I think was a B-side to a later single. But after we got back, he was by my house with a girlfriend of his, and we were playing the tape of what we had done, and my song comes up and is playing, and just as he re-enters the room, is standing behind her, and she looks up and goes, "Oh, I remember that one. That's the one you wrote for me." And from behind her, he went, looking at me. Yeah.
Well, what was your first experience in the studio, and what studio was it?
My first experiences in the studio were as a part of Dickie Lee's band. I had gotten a couple of friends together to be a background vocal group for Dickie's band, and we were at Sun Records trying to enter Sam Phillips in signing Dickie, and Sam was real sweet and said he didn't think we were ready. So we continued on and befriended a local disc jockey named Dewey Phillips, who was unlike anyone ever and a great entertainer. And he would let us come down to the production room at WHBQ Radio in Memphis and rehearse and make tapes. And we ended up making a tape down there that Sam finally thought qualified, and he ended up signing Dickie to the label. And as I said, the engineer there at the time, engineer-producer, was Jack Clement. And the first time I met him, he came rolling up to the studio on a motorcycle in a black leather jacket with a black leather hat that had a leather pigtail hanging down the back, and his tattoos, and I thought, all right. And so that's my first memories are there.
Did you, and what year was that? Around?
That was I would guess that was 57 or 1957 or 58, something like that.
Was Elvis still on Sun at that time?
Elvis had just left there. Jerry Lee was there. I remember, in fact, being with Dickie and a couple of friends at Sun when Sam played us Great Balls of Fire. And I remember how excited he was about that record. And we all were, for that matter. And I don't know where I was going with that, but
Well, he should have been. I guess,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, and let's talk about Sam. He truly had some kind of a futuristic vision of, evidently. I mean, you can make lightning strike maybe once, but twice or three times. He truly had an incredible talent.
yeah, I've always told people one of the things that impressed me most about Sam Phillips was that what he did very consciously. He knew what he wanted, he knew what he loved, he knew when a piece of music moved him, and he was looking for something different. He was looking for to entertain you, and he knew the music he grew up on. And of course, a lot of things have been written about Sam, but this wasn't accidental. Sam knew what he loved and what he didn't love at any moment in time, and would tell you straight.
Scotty Moore said that Sam couldn't tell you what he was looking for, but he knew it when he heard it.
Yeah, that would describe it pretty well. He definitely knew it when he heard it. When he heard it, he got really excited. So this little studio I have here, I bought from Jack Clement, and Jack owned a couple of other studios down the road here. And one night, after we were working in this studio here, Jack had been at his other studios showing them to Sam, and then they came by this studio, and Jack played him a couple of things that I had produced that were done here. And Sam got so excited about this studio, he got so emotional, he hugged Jack and kissed him on the mouth, and he said, "You can dynamite those other studios, this one's worth millions." And I agreed with him. I always have loved this place.
Has it been altered much since you've been here? Is it pretty much cosmetically the way it was?
It's been pretty much, this room out here is very much acoustically the same as it was when I bought it from Jack Clement. I did add a drum booth to the back of the studio, and otherwise it's very much the same as when I first met it. Jack Clement has built a lot of studios, and I've seen him go around tuning them by clapping his hands and shouting and saying, "Let's try a hard panel here," and then he would just putz with it and work with it until he got it to feeling right to him, and that's what he did out in this room. And there's nothing scientific about it. It just he knew, his ears knew what they were listening for. And I've always loved this room. I've always loved the presence that it has. And I never wanted to be in the studio business. Haven't rented it out very much at all. Occasionally to a close friend, but for the most part, I haven't rented it out. I just wanted my own workshop, and that's what it's been for me.
What was your first big song, big record, million seller or #1 as a songwriter?
The first one was a song Dickie Lee and I wrote together. It was called "I Saw Linda Yesterday," and it was a top 10 song in the pop chart. Subsequent to that, 2 or 3 years later, I had a song called "5 O'Clock World" that I wrote that went to #3 in the pop charts and stayed there a while, and didn't make me a huge amount of money, but it gave me a whole lot of confidence, and made a little money so that it helped me move up to Nashville. The demo track for that was cut here in Nashville with David Briggs, Jerry Kerrigan on drums, Mac Gaden, Chip Young, and Norbert Putnam playing the bass. And that track was the track that was used by the group The Vogues to make their recording of the song. So the record was actually cut here in Nashville, and Tony Moon was running Screen Gems, so you'd have to credit him as being the producer, really.
Where the Vogues put their?
The Vogues were from, I think, Pittsburgh, and
where'd they put their voice on that? What
I think they did it up in Pittsburgh, and they added another thing or two to the record, but also Bobby Russell and Buzz Cason were singing background on my version that was done here, and so I've always it was my first hit record, big hit record solo as a writer, and I've always considered it a Nashville recording.
And so, country-wise,
Wrong Road Again was Crystal Gayle's first top 5 record. Somebody Loves You was also a Crystal Gayle record. I wrote a song called "Dreaming My Dreams with You" that Waylon Jennings recorded and had a top 10 single on. Those are some of the ones that.
And now is this were you producing Crystal at this time too, or is this before that?
I produced those 2 songs that I named. Prior to that, I was getting cuts. Charlie Pride cut 3 or 4 songs of mine, and Hank Snow, Hank Lachlan, some people I was pretty excited to get cuts by, but the first real hit singles in Nashville, I guess I produced them.
What was your progression going from writer to producer?
Well, as a writer, you're in the studio periodically making demonstration recordings of your songs, and in that instance, writers are allowed a fair amount of input because you're trying to get the song presented in a way that you feel it, or the way that you felt it when you recorded it. And surprisingly enough, the musicians who play on demos are often also musicians who play on master scale sessions. So I got to know a lot of them that way, and certainly I got to respect a lot of them that way, and learned more and more about that kind of interaction here in Nashville. And every time I did it, I enjoyed it thoroughly. I think most writers would say that. And I had done some producing in Memphis, and fancied that. And I've always told people my songwriting led me into production of records. And part of the impetus for that was wanting to hear your song done the way you wanted to hear it done. And sometimes the only way to do that was to produce it yourself. So that's probably what got me going. Because really, being a producer in Nashville is a whole lot of the job is communicating with the musicians and with the artists and staying off of the talkback button and leaving it alone and letting the process develop while you don't get in a hurry to tell everybody what to do. And the further I went as a producer, the more I sat back in my chair, and the less I was in a hurry to give everybody directions, and was more inclined to let things kind of unfold and blossom naturally, because that's where the magic is. And that was a factor of learning to trust the musicians more, and trust the music more, and be more secure in myself, so that I just shut up.